1.4 is only 2 templates. We're going to talk about absolute value, and I think a lot of you know what absolute value stands for, but let's just talk about it before, or let's just look at the first problem. Whenever you do absolute value, make sure that you always come up with 2 solutions. Absolute means whatever's inside of this sign. It can be a 7, and if you do the absolute value of 7, it turns out to be 7. You could also do a -7, and the absolute value of a -7 is also 7. It turns out to be positive once it comes out of the absolute value sign. So that is the reason why you're going to have 2 solutions today. You need to make sure that you're going to have 2 solutions today. I mean, couldn't x equal 3? What's the absolute value of 3? What happens if we put 3 in there? Aren't we going to get our answer as final 3? Couldn't x also equal a -3? What happens if we put a -3 inside of the absolute value? Doesn't that equal also a +3? So you're going to have 2 answers. You're not going to have them like this. You're going to have them like the one down here. And how do you solve for this? This is what you're going to do. I'm going to make a bar, a little line, because I know I have 2 equations. You're going to do exactly the exact same equation without the bar. Does everybody see that? That's exactly the same thing as right there except the bar. And then your second one's going to be x minus 2 equals, do you see that on the left-hand side that they're exactly the same? The 4 changes to a -4. That's what changes on the second equation. And you need 2 solutions to do all of these today. I like putting a bar, one for each one. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I'm going to get x equals 6. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And I'm going to get x equals a -2. Both of these, I'm going to prove to you that they work in there. So you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to prove to you in this problem why you need 2. If I put 6 in place of x, you guys, what's 6 take away 2? Doesn't 6 take away 2 equal 4? And what's the absolute value of 4? That gives you 4. I can also put in place of x a -2. A -2 minus 2 makes a -4. But what's the absolute value of a -4? Doesn't that also give you a +4? So that's why you need 2 answers. Okay, next problem. Let's do it again. You see the absolute value, make yourself a vertical line. You're going to rewrite it without the absolute value sign for one equation. Everybody see that? Identical to the one up above it, except the absolute value. You're going to keep writing x plus 8, and the only thing that changes is the negative number on the right-hand side. Subtract 8, subtract 8. You get x equals 4. Subtract 8, subtract 8. You get x equals a -12 and a -8 makes a -20. Okay, now it's getting a little bit more difficult because I think you've got the that part. Before you guys can break it up, notice that there's a +2 next to the absolute value. Before you break it up, you guys, you have to subtract 2 to both sides. Subtract 2, and you have a 1. It must look like this first. You must get the absolute value alone before you break it up into your 2 equations. The absolute value is alone. The absolute value is alone. Now I'm going to break it up. One is going to be b minus 3 equal 1. The other one's going to be b minus 3 equals a -1. Add 3, add 3. You're going to get b equals 4. Add 3, add 3. You're going to get b equals 2. So that's the stickler on this worksheet. You must have the absolute value alone first before breaking it up into 2 equations. Okay, there's an error right here. This little 8 isn't supposed to be here. This little 8 is supposed to be over here. So let's just move it there. Okay, if you look at this problem, there is something wrong with this problem. Anybody know what this is? You can say it to yourself if this is the video. Do you notice that there's a +4 on the same side as the absolute value? You must get rid of it first, so you have to subtract 4 first. So you get the absolute value of 2x minus 3 is equal to 5, because 9 take away 4 is 5. Once you get this alone, this is called the absolute value, I'm going to make my bar. And one is going to be 2x minus 3 equals 5, exactly the way it's written without the absolute value. And the other one is 2x minus 3 equals a negative 5. I'm going to add 3. I'm going to add 3. I'm going to get 2x equals 8. And then I'm going to divide by 2 and divide by 2 to get x equals 4 for my first one. I'm going to add 3. I'm going to add 3. I'm going to get 2x equals a negative 2. Divide by 2. I'm going to get x equals a negative 2 divided by 2 is a negative 1. Final answer. Okay, I think this is the last problem of the day. It is. Okay, do you remember what I said? You have to get this alone first. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I have the absolute value of 4x plus 1 is equal to 10 then, because I have to get the absolute value alone before I can break it up into my 2 equations. One equation is going to be 4x plus 1 equals 10, and the other one's going to be 4x plus 1 equals a negative 10. I'm going to subtract 1 and subtract 1 from my first equation, which gives me 4x equals 9. I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and x is going to equal, it's not going to turn out nicely, sometimes they don't. It's okay to get a decimal once in a while. 9 divided by 4 is 2.25. There's one answer. I'm going to subtract 1, I'm going to subtract 1. I'm going to get 4x equals a negative 11. And then I'm going to divide by 4. Again, doesn't always turn out to be a negative 11 divided by 4 is going to give me a negative 2.75 on your calculator. Just to show you sometimes that the answers do not turn out nicely. So, I just like to summarize this because of the steps. When you do absolute value problems, you'll see this on the ACT if you take the ACT. Number 1, you know you're going to have 2 solutions. Make sure you break it up. You know you're going to have 2 solutions. Before you get your 2 solutions, though, you have to have the absolute value alone. Once it's alone, you can break it up. I like using a vertical bar to break it up. And then once you break it up into your 2 equations, you solve for your 2 answers. So that's how you do this section.